Ever wondered why some people just keep making the same foolish mistakes over and over again? What if wisdom wasn't about knowing more, but about seeing more, in yourself and in others? Stick around, because once you learn to spot these 6 signs, you'll never look at people the same way again. Welcome to Stoic Bridge, the bridge between ancient wisdom and modern life, guiding you through life's storms with calm and resilience. This video isn't about labeling others or calling people out. It's about awareness, about sharpening your ability to recognize the subtle patterns that separate wisdom from foolishness. And these patterns, they're more common than you might think. After years of observing how people navigate life, how they speak, react, recover, and relate to others, I've come to a deeper realization. True intelligence isn't about titles or knowledge. It's revealed in how we carry ourselves, how we treat people, and how we bounce back after failure. In this episode, we'll explore 6 key signs that reveal when someone is not walking the path of wisdom. These signs are simple but powerful, and once you recognize them, they become impossible to ignore, not just in others, but sometimes in your own reflection. This video invites you to look inward, not with judgment, but with clarity. Because each of these signs doesn't just point out a flaw, they offer a mirror, a moment to pause, reflect, and grow. Whether you've seen these traits in others or caught glimpses of them in yourself, this journey begins with honest observation. So if you're ready to step away from foolishness and walk with greater intention, humility, and insight, let's begin. Sign number 1, a closed mind. Picture a castle sealed off from the outside world, its walls high, thick, and unyielding. That's what a closed mind looks like. It's not built overnight, but stone by stone, through fear, pride, and the stubborn belief that change is something to be feared, not welcomed. People with closed minds don't just reject new ideas, they reject growth itself. They confine themselves to a mental box where only familiar thoughts are allowed in. Anything unfamiliar is seen as a threat, something to be avoided, not explored. Their so-called confidence, often it's just a mask. Because real confidence, the kind rooted in wisdom, comes from knowing that no one has all the answers. Let me tell you about Mark, a department manager I once worked with. Mark clung to his outdated methods like a security blanket. He insisted that the way they'd done things for the last decade was still the best way, even as the world around him moved on. When a younger employee suggested adopting ActingPlayCamera, a modern project management tool to help the team catch up, Mark dismissed it on the spot. "We've done it this way for 10 years. It works just fine." But it wasn't fine. Other teams were evolving, embracing change, and moving ahead. Meanwhile, Mark's team was falling behind, struggling with inefficiencies and poor performance. Instead of taking a hard look at his choices, Mark pointed fingers. He blamed the staff. He blamed the market. He even blamed bad luck. But never once did he question the real problem, his own rigid mindset. And here's the cost. A closed mind doesn't just block new knowledge. It stunts the growth of everyone nearby. It creates a culture where innovation is stifled and progress becomes nearly impossible. Wise individuals, on the other hand, are never ashamed to say, "I don't know." They're curious, open, always learning. As Stoic philosophy teaches us, wisdom isn't about being right all the time. It's about being willing to grow, to adapt, and to become better. So if you notice this tendency in yourself or in someone close to you, don't ignore it. Embracing new ideas isn't just smart, it's essential. It fuels personal growth, strengthens your team, and opens the door to a better future. Be bold enough to say, "I was wrong. I want to learn." Because only when we tear down the walls of pride and stubbornness can true wisdom begin to grow. Now that we've seen how a closed mind can hold someone back, let's move on to the next sign, one that hides behind excuses and keeps people stuck in place: constant blaming. Sign number 2, constant blaming. Imagine someone walking through life with a mirror turned outward, always ready to reflect fault onto everyone else but themselves. That's what constant blaming looks like. It may seem like a harmless habit, even justified at times, but underneath, it's a deeply limiting mindset, one that silently sabotages growth. Foolish people often become artists of avoidance. They craft excuses with such precision that no mistake ever sticks to them. A failed project? Clearly the market was impossible. Missed out on a promotion? Their boss must have had favorites. There's always someone else to blame, never themselves. But here's the truth we all sense, deep down. Blaming is not strength, it's armor. It shields us from the sting of accountability. Yet ironically, that same shield quickly becomes a cage, trapping us in a cycle of denial, preventing us from ever moving forward. Let me tell you about Lisa, an event organizer I once worked with. She was in charge of a major conference, one that had months of preparation behind it. But when the big day came, attendance was dismal. Without missing a beat, Lisa pointed fingers at the marketing team. They didn't promote it well enough, she said. But when the situation was reviewed, the truth came out. Lisa had failed to send the event details on time, delaying the entire promotional rollout. Even after learning this, she clung to her story, refusing to accept her part in the failure. And the consequences? Her team lost faith in her. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. Eventually, Lisa had to step down from her position, not because of one mistake, but because of her unwillingness to own it. The weight of responsibility can feel heavy at first, but it's also the gateway to maturity and self-improvement. Wise people aren't immune to mistakes. They simply choose to face them. Not because they enjoy being wrong, but because they know that truth, however uncomfortable, holds the key to progress. Stoic philosophy teaches that mastery of life begins with mastery of responsibility. If you ever catch yourself shifting blame, pause. Ask yourself, did I truly do everything I could? What could I have done better? Blaming changes nothing about the past, but responsibility? It reshapes your future. It builds resilience, earns respect, and opens the door to becoming someone others can trust. So if you want to grow, if you want to lead, if you want to be wise, own your role in every outcome. Now that we've examined the trap of constant blaming, let's turn to another dangerous mindset, one that hides behind pride and often masks a deep fear: arrogance over humility. Sign number 3, arrogance over humility. Have you ever stepped into a room where someone seems determined to outshine everyone else? Where every sentence they speak is a performance, aimed at proving they're the smartest person in the room? That's not confidence. It's the third unmistakable sign of a foolish person: arrogance. Arrogance isn't strength. It's not leadership. In truth, it's a fragile mask for insecurity, hiding a deep fear of being seen as wrong or inadequate. But what makes arrogance truly dangerous is this: it creates a wall so thick that wisdom can no longer enter. It blocks growth, silences feedback, and ultimately isolates the one wearing it. Truly wise individuals don't feel the need to dominate every conversation. They listen more than they speak. They know that every person, no matter their title or background, has something to teach. Why? Because learning never ends. And humility is the only door through which lifelong growth can walk. Let me share the story of Michael, a manager at a large corporation. In every meeting, he held court like a king. He spoke over people, interrupted them mid-sentence, and often ridiculed ideas that didn't match his own. His need to prove his superiority became so constant, it left little room for anyone else to contribute. Then came a major project failure. Instead of reflecting, Michael blamed his team. He insisted they simply didn't grasp his brilliant strategy. But when his boss asked him to explain what went wrong, Michael couldn't offer a single clear reason. His arrogance had blinded him to feedback, to collaboration, and to the flaws in his own approach. In contrast, humility isn't about shrinking or undervaluing yourself. It's about shifting focus from self-promotion to shared growth. It's choosing to seek truth over validation, progress over pride. As Stoic philosophy reminds us, real wisdom begins when we open ourselves to new perspectives, when we're courageous enough to say, "I was wrong," and willing to learn from it. So if you ever find yourself striving to win arguments instead of understanding others, pause and ask, am I here to be admired or am I here to grow? Because true wisdom isn't about making others feel small. It's about helping them rise. It's about choosing humility as your compass. Even when arrogance tempts you to take control, the truly wise let their ego grow quiet so their understanding can grow louder. Now, as we leave behind the blinding glare of arrogance, let's shift our focus to a deeper form of awareness, the kind that comes from feeling what others feel, empathy. Sign number 4, lack of empathy. Think of empathy as a bridge, one that connects hearts, builds understanding, and softens the hard edges of life. When that bridge is missing, people aren't just disconnected from others, they're stranded on an island of their own emotions, unaware of the world around them. A lack of empathy is one of the most visible and damaging signs of ignorance. It's more than just a failure to understand others. It's the inability, or sometimes unwillingness, to step into someone else's shoes, to pause, to feel, to imagine what another person might be going through. Without empathy, relationships begin to crack. People start to hurt each other unintentionally, not because they're cruel, but because they simply don't understand the emotional weight others carry. And over time, this emotional blindness doesn't just harm others, it erodes the very foundation of one's character. Let me share a real story. There was a man I once worked with named Paul. On the surface, Paul was efficient, punctual, and driven. But he had a pattern. He'd often complain loudly whenever a project got delayed. He never asked why. He never paused to consider if someone might be struggling behind the scenes. One day, a coworker named Susan missed an important deadline. Her young son had been seriously ill, and she'd been juggling hospital visits and sleepless nights. But Paul didn't care to ask. Instead, he called her out in front of the entire team, coldly criticizing her for slipping up and not being professional enough. The room fell silent. No one said anything, but the damage was done. Fast forward a year. Paul's own mother fell gravely ill. Suddenly, he found himself stretched thin, missing meetings, missing deadlines, and emotionally overwhelmed. And in that moment of hardship, he finally saw. He saw how harsh and thoughtless he had once been. The realization hit him harder than any critique ever could. That's the cost of lacking empathy. It doesn't just make us seem indifferent. It blinds us to opportunities for connection, for growth, and for learning through the lives of others. Stoic philosophy teaches us that wisdom doesn't come from accumulating knowledge alone. It comes from being deeply attuned to the human experience, from recognizing pain in another person's voice, or seeing struggle behind a forced smile. Wisdom is found not in isolation, but in shared humanity. People who lack empathy may look strong on the outside, but inside, they are often empty, disconnected from the very things that make life rich and meaningful. So remember this, empathy is not weakness, it is strength in its purest form. It's the courage to sit with someone else's pain, to listen without judgment, to offer understanding, not solutions. When you open your heart to the feelings of others, something remarkable happens. You gain not only their trust, but also a deeper wisdom that no book or degree can teach. If you ever catch yourself tuning out someone's story or brushing off their emotions, stop, listen, truly listen, because that simple act may be the beginning of a wiser, more compassionate you. Now that we've explored the silent damage caused by a lack of empathy, let's look at another common yet deceptive trait of foolishness, one that clings to comfort and resists the very nature of life, the fear of change. Sign number 5, the fear of change. Imagine curling up in a warm blanket on a cold night. It's safe, familiar, comforting. That's what the comfort zone feels like for many people. But as soothing as it seems, that comfort can quietly become a cage, a prison built not of walls, but of habits, routine, and fear. Those who fear change often cling to what they know, even when it no longer serves them. It's like watching someone try to keep a dying plant alive by refusing to repot it. They stay rooted in the old soil, afraid that any shift, any movement will only make things worse. They remind us of children afraid of the dark, peeking out, but too hesitant to take a step forward. Yet life doesn't wait. It flows like a river, twisting, turning, reshaping itself constantly. The wise learn to float with the current, adjusting with each new bend. But the foolish, they try to cup the water in their hands, only to watch it slip away. Let me tell you about Michael. He had lived his entire life in the same small neighborhood. He knew every face, every corner shop, every street light. So when his grown children encouraged him to move to a different area, one with better amenities and closer family, Michael resisted. "I know everyone here," he said. "Why should I go somewhere else?" But over time, the neighborhood he once loved began to change. Old friends moved away, beloved local businesses shut their doors. Slowly, the familiar became unfamiliar, and Michael came to a quiet realization. While he had tried so hard to stay the same, the world had kept moving. Eventually, he made the decision to relocate, and to his surprise, the new environment didn't just bring him closer to his family, it opened doors to joys and possibilities he had never imagined. His world expanded the moment he chose to let go of his fear. This is the danger of resisting change. It doesn't just keep us still, it keeps us small. It convinces us that comfort equals safety, while quietly stripping away our chances to grow, to learn, and to discover. Stoic philosophy teaches us that change is not something to fear. It is something to accept. It is part of nature's rhythm, part of our path, and only by stepping into the unknown can we truly experience the fullness of life. So, if you find yourself hesitating at the edge of something new, ask yourself not just, what if it goes wrong, but also, what if it goes right? Life does not stand still, and if you choose to stay motionless, you risk being left behind, not by others, but by your own potential. Remember this, change is not the enemy, fear is, and every step you take through change brings you closer to the person you're meant to become. Now that we've explored how fear can freeze progress, let's turn to one final sign of foolishness, one that hides behind constant noise, talking more than listening. Sign number 6, talking more than listening. Imagine sitting at a dinner table where one person holds the stage, speaking endlessly, never pausing, never noticing the eyes around them growing distant. That person may be smart, experienced, or even well-meaning. But if they talk more than they listen, they're missing one of the clearest marks of wisdom. Have you ever known someone like that? Someone who insists they know everything? They jump into conversations just to steer them, interrupt without thinking, and rarely allow space for others to speak. Their voice fills the room, but their silence never does. This is a telltale sign of someone who talks far more than they listen. And that, my friend, is a hallmark of foolishness. They often love the sound of their own voice, not necessarily out of malice, but out of habit or ego. And in doing so, they shut out the perspectives of others. What they don't realize is that every time they interrupt, dismiss, or dominate, they create tension. And this tension, especially within families, erodes trust, closeness, and emotional safety. Let me tell you a story about John, a father I once knew. Every evening at dinner, John would take over the conversation. His children would try to share little moments from their school day, but before they could finish a sentence, he would cut in with a long story of his own. His wife, thoughtful and practical, would gently suggest ways to improve their family's finances. But John would shut her down immediately, insisting, "My way is the only way." The saddest part? John had no idea how much his behavior was wounding the people he loved. His need to be heard drowned out the voices of his family. Over time, that constant one-sidedness created a quiet rift. His children felt unseen. His wife felt unheard, and the home grew emotionally distant. Listening, you see, is not a passive act. It's an active expression of respect. It takes patience, attention, and a willingness to step back from our own thoughts and let someone else's world come through. In fact, Stoic philosophy reminds us that listening is one of the purest gateways to wisdom. In silence, we don't just hear, we understand. Talking without listening, on the other hand, is like planting seeds in barren soil. No matter how many words are spoken, nothing meaningful will take root. So if you found pieces of yourself in John's story, don't be discouraged. See it as an opportunity. The next time your child comes home excited to tell you something, or your partner offers a sincere thought, try something different. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Truly listen. Lean in. Let their words settle before responding. Because when you listen deeply, you do more than build better relationships. You create a space where love, understanding, and trust can thrive. Remember this: the wise person listens. The foolish one only talks. Now that we've uncovered all 6 signs of a foolish person, let's take a step back and reflect on what they really mean for our own path toward wisdom. So here we are. After exploring 6 subtle yet powerful signs that often reveal a lack of wisdom, a closed mind that resists new ideas, the habit of constant blaming, the arrogance that drowns out humility, a lack of empathy, fear of change, and the tendency to talk more than we listen. But before you close this video and start asking yourself, "Am I foolish?" pause for just a moment. The truth is, at some point in life, we all fall into one or more of these patterns. Maybe we've shut out new ideas without realizing it, clung tightly to our comfort zones, or spoken more than we've listened. And that doesn't make us failures, it makes us human. The true value in recognizing these signs isn't about judging ourselves or others. It's about awareness, growth, transformation. Stoic philosophy reminds us that wisdom isn't about never making mistakes. It's about noticing when we do and having the courage to change course. It's about learning continuously, humbling ourselves when needed, and taking full responsibility for who we are becoming. In fact, each of these so-called foolish traits, they're not dead ends. They're invitations to evolve into someone wiser, someone stronger, someone more grounded in purpose. So if any part of this video resonated with you, embrace it. Use it as a mirror, not a judgment. Step a little further out of your comfort zone. Open your ears more than your mouth. Let go of blame and reach for understanding. Most importantly, welcome change as your teacher, not your enemy. This journey toward wisdom, it isn't reserved for the perfect. It's made for the brave, for those who dare to look within and say, "I can do better." Because foolishness, that's just a temporary state. But wisdom is a lifelong path. And the best part, you never have to walk it alone. Keep learning, keep growing. And if this message spoke to you, go ahead and like the video, share it with someone who might need it, tap the bell, and subscribe to the channel. Together, we'll keep exploring the ancient truths that still shape the modern soul. Thank you for watching.